morning, everybody. I want to thank everyone for coming out this morning and being here with us. I'd like to introduce our wonderful Mayor, Kurt Wilson, who will kick off our program today.
Thank you, Director Malone. At this time, I'd like to introduce our distinguished City Council. To my left, Councilmember Sarah Beeson, Councilmember Christine Hall, Councilmember Lee Hills, Councilmember David Johnson, Councilmember Willa Morthland, Councilmember Alan Sells. At this time, I would like to ask the City of Roswell's Fire Department Chaplain, Dory Griggs, to lead us in an invocation. Dory.
It's an honor to be here today. I grew up in New Jersey, but have lived here in Georgia since 1985. I lost a dear friend on 9/11. He worked on the 104th floor of the second tower. Through my work in trauma studies, I've come to meet and be friends with many who are on the ground in New York, Pennsylvania, and Northern Virginia 23 years ago. One of them, David Hanshoe, was severely injured when the towers fell. He told me this week he was good friends with Father Michael Judge. Father Michael Judge was the chaplain for the Fire Department of New York and is the first official homicide of that day. David told me that Father Michael had a prayer he would say with a little twinkle and smile on his face. Lord, take me where you want me to go. Let me meet who you want me to meet. Tell me what you want to say and keep me out of the way. I've said this prayer on repeat as I prepared for the prayer this morning. Please join me. Gracious God, we are gathered here today with heavy hearts for the people who tragically lost their lives 23 years ago today. The people in the Twin Towers of the World Trade Center entered the buildings on that beautiful summer day with no idea of the earth-shattering events that were about to unfold in New York, in the air over Pennsylvania, and at the Pentagon. First responders rushed in at each site to do what they could to minimize the casualties, most fully understanding they may not make it out alive. Our hearts ache for the families who lost their loved ones and for the first responder family who lost not only co-workers, but their work family. Bless each person who grieves. Help them feel your loving presence through each person they encounter in the course of their day, knowing you work through others for good. Lord, keep us mindful of the many who died in the years after 9/11 from injuries sustained in the aftermath. Some who continue to suffer from illnesses both physical and psychological, especially the over 70,000 individuals who are on the 9/11 healthcare registry that still need our support. We give thanks to the men and women who stepped up and led the way in emergency response. From fire rescue, law enforcement, local, state, and federal, our United States Armed Services members, medical response teams from emergency medical rescue, and hospital staff. Many risked their own safety that day. Lord, we ask that you continue to watch over our first responders as they continue to keep us safe. Help us to remember the many acts of kindness we saw that day, and in the days, weeks, and months afterwards. And in remembering, help us to continue to lead with love towards our neighbors. We rejoice in organizations that were formed to build bridges of understanding in the aftermath of 9/11, like the Faith Alliance of Metro Atlanta, now called Interfaith Atlanta, people from all faiths who came together seeking to understand each other as neighbors and friends, knowing we have far more in common than we do differences. Please work through each of us here today, helping us to be the light of compassion and understanding, reflecting your love for us to all we meet, and working toward a more peaceful world. Amen.
Thank you, Dory. At this time, I would like to ask for a presentation of the color guard.
Detail. Face. Preset. On. Orders. On. Color. Look. Red. 2.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see. 'Twas grace that taught my heart to fear, and grace my fears relieved. How precious dear that grace appeared. The hour I first believed, when we bend there 10,000 years, bright shining as the sun, we've not stayed to sing God's praise. Then when we first begun, amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see.
Ladies and gentlemen, please feel free to have a seat. At this time, I'm going to ask our city council to come up. I've asked all 6 of them to read the timeline of events of the morning of September 11th, 2001. So, council.
At 7:59 a.m., American Airlines Flight 11, a Boeing 767 carrying 81 passengers and 11 crew members, departs from Logan International Airport in Boston, bound for Los Angeles International Airport. At 8:14 a.m., United Airlines Flight 175, a Boeing 767 carrying 56 passengers and 9 crew members, departs from Logan International Airport in Boston, bound for Los Angeles International Airport. At 8:14 a.m., Flight 11 is hijacked over central Massachusetts. There are 5 hijackers on board.
At 8:20 a.m., American Airlines Flight 77, a Boeing 757 with 58 passengers and 6 crew members, departs from Washington Dulles International Airport for Los Angeles International Airport. At 8:42, United Airlines Flight 93, a Boeing 757 with 37 passengers and 7 crew members, departs from Newark International Airport, bound for San Francisco International Airport. At 8:42, Flight 175 is hijacked above Northwest New Jersey. There are 5 hijackers on board.
8:46 a.m., Flight 11 crashes into the north face of the North Tower of the World Trade Center between floors 93 and 99. All 92 people on board were killed. 8:50, Flight 77 is hijacked above southern Ohio. There are 5 hijackers. 9:03, Flight 175 crashes into the south face of the South Tower of the World Trade Center between floors 77 and 85. All 65 people on board are killed.
9:28 a.m., Flight 93 is hijacked above northern Ohio. There are 4 hijackers on board. 9:37 a.m., Flight 77 crashes into the western side of the Pentagon. All 64 people on board are killed.
9:59, the South Tower of the World Trade Center collapses, 56 minutes after the impact of Flight 175. 10:03, Flight 93 is crashed by its hijackers in a field in Somerset County, Pennsylvania. Later reports indicate that passengers had learned about the World Trade Center and Pentagon crashes and were resisting the hijackers. All 44 people on board are killed in the crash.
At 10:28, the North Tower of the World Trade Center collapses, 1 hour and 42 minutes after the impact of Flight 11. The Marriott Hotel at the base of the 2 towers is also destroyed. 2.5 hours after the first plane left Boston, the iconic World Trade Center Twin Towers lay in ruins in lower Manhattan. Nearly 3,000 souls lost their lives during that attack. For many Americans and people watching around the world, September 11, 2001 is a day that will never be forgotten.
I ask you to join me in a moment of silence. Thank you. Counselor, are there any of those that would like to make comments on this morning? You're more than welcome at this juncture.
I read this morning of a man who survived in Cantor Fitzgerald, which, as you probably recall, was above the fire line. It was on the 104th floor, I believe. He was on his way up to the office. His name was Harry Weiser. He was, as the doors opened on the 79th floor where you change to get the higher, he was hit by a fireball, and his skin melted. He was helped down the stairs by a fireman headed up, and he survived. And this week he retired.
Thanks, Alan. Good morning. Thank you for joining me today as we gather to remember one of the dark days in our nation's history. The terrorist attacks of September 11, 2001 were not just an assault on buildings and people. They were an attack on the very heart and soul of this nation. On that day, nearly 3,000 innocent lives were taken from us. They were fathers, mothers, sons, daughters, friends, and neighbors. But more than that, They were Americans, citizens of a free nation, bound together by a shared belief in the principles of liberty, democracy, and justice. In the moments, hours, and days that followed, our country faced unimaginable grief. But even in the midst of this sorrow, something remarkable happened. Across the United States, in big cities and small towns alike, you and I came together. We stood shoulder to shoulder, united by our shared loss and our shared determination to honor the lives of those who were taken from us, and to not let fear rule the day. Here in Roswell, like so many other communities, we felt the shockwaves of that day. You and I may be far from New York, Washington, D.C., and Pennsylvania, but the pain was no less real. Many of us knew someone who lost their life or knew someone who knew someone. Our hearts were broken, but they were not shattered. Instead, they grew stronger, filled with a renewed sense of purpose. You know, the impact of 9/11 has shaped the United States in profound ways. It has taught us the meaning of resilience and unity. In the days after the attacks, we saw countless acts of heroism and compassion. First responders rushed into danger without hesitation. Strangers became friends as they offered support and comfort to those in need. And across our nation, flags were flown, candles were lit, and prayers were said as we sought to make sense of the senseless. But the legacy of 9/11 is not just one of sorrow and loss. It is also a story of courage, hope, and the spirit of the American people. We learned that we are stronger together, and that in our darkest hours, we find the light of our shared humanity and a belief in a supreme and sovereign God. As we stand here together 23 years later, let us remember those who perished, honor those who served, and recommit ourselves to the values that make this nation great. Let you and I continue to be vigilant against the forces of hatred and terror, but also against the fear and division they seek to sow. Let's you and I seriously work together to build a future of freedom, justice, and peace. In Roswell, we are a community of strength and compassion. We have always stood by one another despite our fighting, and we always will. The memory of 9/11 reminds us that even in the face of the worst, our spirit cannot be broken. Together, you and I, we will continue to honor the memory of those we lost, not just in our words, but in our actions, in the way you and I live our lives, in the way you and I treat one another, in the way that you and I strive to build a better, safer, and more just world for all. Now, I know most of you probably watched the debate last night, and some of you are probably supporters of Donald Trump, and some of you are probably supporters of Kamala Harris, and some of you probably don't like either one of them. But the fact of the matter is that we're all Americans. Whether you're on the left or on the right or independent, care deeply or don't care. And you and I have a legacy to uphold based upon the backs of our ancestors, the men and women who came before us, to leave this place in a better place. And 9/11 is a simple reminder of that, a deep reminder of that. So every year we will come here and we will honor 9/11. We will remember 9/11 because it is my hope and my belief that we can continue to become a better people because we do remember the sacred nature of what happened on 9/11. I thank each of you for coming today. I hope each of you will pass on 9/11 to those who are not here today. I ask for God's special blessing upon each of you, upon this great city of Roswell, upon the leaders of the city of Roswell, and most importantly, I ask for God's blessing upon this great country. Thank you so much for being here. This morning's event is now closed. Thank you.